have to start with the way that you open your book as well, How to Speak Whale, with a morning in 2015 when you really were brought onto a collision course with whales. So could you just say a bit about what happened to you that day?
Sure. I was visiting a laboratory where they design underwater robots, and one of the scientists there said, look, there's loads of humpback whales. You should go kayaking on a tour. So I went with my friend Charlotte, who's an accountant, at dawn, and it was very misty. We paddled out. You couldn't really see anything. And then as the mist cleared, there were just over 100 humpback whales, and it was the biggest aggregation that they'd ever had. So we were really careful. I used to work on whale watching boats, making sure people didn't get too close, sort of hitting the hull of the kayak, the 2-person kayak we were in. And we got to the end and we managed to stay away from all the whales as much as you can because they move fast. And we were paddling back to shore when one of them came out of absolutely nowhere. It leapt out of the water in a breach, which is when a whale throws its body in the air. And it came down like directly on top of us and smashed into our kayak, and we were dragged underwater.
How long were you underwater for? What were you thinking at this point?
I think when it jumped up, I thought, I'm going to die, because it was clearly just going to land on us. They're just so massive, you know, they're like, I don't know, about 3 times the size of a T-Rex, like sort of the same kind of volume as a bus, but actually like made of, they seem very heavy when you see them above you. They're like a rock cliff that's just coming onto you. So it was very clear in my mind that we were going to die. But they have these grooves on their throats called ventral pleats, which kind of concertina in and out to allow them to gulp in loads of fish and water. And I remember also thinking, ventral pleats, like just sort of, because you didn't have enough time to be scared. It just happened. And then I was underwater and I opened my eyes and I was just sort of, it was like white bubbles everywhere. And I just remember being like really thrown around underwater and almost like, you know, kind of cartwheeling. And I didn't understand how I wasn't in the kayak anymore. And I thought I was just sort of, you know, broken and about to go into shock or you know, notice whatever injuries I had or lose consciousness. But I felt fine. And we were underwater, I think, for about 9 seconds. And I think what happened was the whale, as it went down, we kind of got sucked down with it. And then I swam back to the surface, and my head, I remember the first thing I saw when my head came out of the water, I just saw Charlotte's face, like grinning. And I just thought, oh, you're not dead. Because I'd assumed she was dead, like in a sort of very, you know, straightforward way. She was closer to where the whale was, at the front of the kayak. But she was totally fine, and I was totally fine.
Wow, terrifying. So did it take you a while to process what happened to you?
I was just very happy to not be dead. I didn't really have a chance to really engage with it. Like, we'd paddled back to shore and we'd said to people, like, a whale just jumped on us. And people just laughed at us. And the kayak was all smashed up. But then we were just, you know, it was like 8 a.m. and we were having a hot chocolate, and life kind of immediately went on.
Yeah, how do you communicate to people what's happened?
I tried, but I think people didn't believe me. And so I just had to console myself to thinking, wow, this totally extraordinary experience has happened, but no one's ever gonna believe it.
But then it turned out that actually it had been recorded.
Yes. When we came we got phone reception, and this video was on YouTube, and it had like a few thousand views, and it was of the whale landing on us, and a tourist had filmed it on their phone. And this was 2015. Like, not everybody had a phone with the internet, a phone with a video camera, but somebody had, and they put it up. And then, so I just watched it and watched it and watched it, and then people believed me, and then they said, "Wow, that was close." And then it went viral, and I was flying home, and at the airport, like, Good Morning America were like interviewing me, and then I landed in London, and I had like hundreds of missed calls, and then Charlotte and I were, you know, having to go on the news and talk about it, and it had just like millions and millions of views, and there was like a caricature of us as a whale, there's Jeremy Corbyn as a whale jumping on a boat with, you know, George Osborne and David Cameron in the boat, and it just became a cultural thing.
So you're just a meme now.
We became a meme, yeah, and it was strange. And the person who put it online like made loads of money from their video, and I didn't know how to feel about it, because it was like we'd almost died, and it was this sort of very kind of extraordinary experience, and then it became kind of fodder.
Something so profound, and then it just it changes the whole nature of it.
Totally. And it was just like on everything, like Japanese, German. It was kind of perfect because nothing really bad had happened, but it was spectacular, and there were no words in it. So it just became a thing everywhere. And that meant that every kind of person with a whale story started getting in touch with me. And then scientists, because it was videoed, could look at what happened in it. And that's where everything else kind of began.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this clip, you can hear the full interview on Where the Wild Thoughts Are, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow this channel for more wild thoughts.